I'm sensing there's some optimism out there.
In some quarters.
In some quarters, the market is starting to come back a little bit. People are investing in the stock market. New homes ticked up a little bit. And I will say this: it has absolutely nothing to do with your Lord and Savior Barack Obama.
But then again, the problem had nothing to do with him to begin with.
Well,
let's look at it from that angle.
We'll arm wrestle this all you want to, but Ronald Reagan took office. Home mortgages were 19% and unemployment was 16%. And you know what? I didn't hear him. He didn't have any tears coming out of his eyes. He set forth. He forced the markets in line. He made. I mean, he had a lot of help when there was real Republicans now, real conservative Republicans, not the rhinos that we have today that are Democrats that switched over to Republican.
Now, define rhino for the
Republican in name only.
Right.
Okay. And I'll tell you, and I spoke a little bit about it the last show, and I will say a little more about it today. This is to my friends in the Republican Party. Smaller government, lower taxes, and personal responsibility. And if there's an elected official or one who is trying to obtain becoming an elected official that will not follow those rules, you do not need to invite them to a meeting. You need to shun them, and you need to publicly shun them. And if you follow my directions on this, that means that Don Salter, Bob Cole, or Gordon Gooden will never be invited to a Republican club meeting again. Okay, they're not deserving of the title. They don't understand it. I'll get back off my Republican. Okay. Actually, what we need is conservatism back in this.
We haven't seen much of that in a long time from that particular party, and they were in power for a long time. And the spending seems to have just been increasing, especially the last.
Right. Well, I'm ashamed of them. I'm ashamed of them. You show there's not one Republican that I believe has towed the line on that I know that's in office. I really don't. They'll get up there when nobody's in the room and the camera's rolling. You know, that's easy to stand in front of a camera and wail against the machine. Oh, these people are all wrong. But then they go hide in the cloakroom when the vote comes about and all this bad stuff happens.
Let's not forget George W. Bush pushed through the first
bailout. Absolutely, and I will tell you that.
And we don't know where that money is.
From when he came to Pensacola, of me personally in awe of hearing him speak, up until the point I wouldn't spit on him if he was on fire right now. That's the change of emotions that I've had over him. He has been one of the biggest disappointments. He has made one accomplishment that I will give him credit for.
He made Halliburton rich.
No, he has made one accomplishment.
Besides that?
He has made one accomplishment that I believe the history books down in time will say that he kept America safe. Although I think we could have been a little more proactive to start out with. I think there's some evidence to suggest almost kind of the Pearl Harbor thing. They kind of tipped their hand, we're coming. Mm-hmm. And maybe we could have done more, but there's no doubt about it. He kept us safe. But outside of that, the monetary stuff, the people that... here's what disgusts me. If you're going to be a Republican, and you know full well that one of your Republican brethren are, for example, sending ugly little text messages to people who are not 21 years old, and you don't say anything about it, you're just as guilty as the man that's sending the text messages. If you stand,
you're talking about politicians now.
If you stand there and you take no action, and you allow this, and you know, I go back to evil prevails when good men do nothing. All right. And I've said for a long time, look, I'm a proud Republican. That has very little to do with it today. We need conservative people who believe in personal responsibility. And all of this mess that is going on right now. And look, it's not just a mess at the federal government.
But we were told the people who allowed all this to happen with the stock market, partially but not completely because of lack of regulation, we were told by all those people that that was all related to personal responsibility and that the market was going to correct itself. And that was the classic conservative sort of outlook on it, and here we are today.
And it was,
bankrupt.
But let me tell you this: through the '80s and the '90s, I firmly remember, watched it. I've been paying attention to the market, especially into the late '80s. The SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, which oversees how our markets and economic system works, there was hardly a month that went by that somebody didn't have their hands behind their back with handcuffs on, and they walked them down Wall Street and they put them in the paddy wagon and they took them to prison. Now I'm going to tell you,
they didn't get enough of them, I guess.
Well, they didn't. Greed, when it comes to managing money, you don't want to stop all of it. You want people to always be looking aggressively to find ways to earn money.
Game the system.
The problem is, I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you look at all you bundle home mortgages into an unknown package and you turn it to derivatives and it's just crazy.
But we were told that that's the market and it'll take care of itself. And what's happened was the market turned around, and before the market could spank the people who were responsible,
we dived in.
We bailed, as we do every time, and as will happen every time. And that's why that market theory's a bunch of bunk in the end, because we're going to bail them out no matter what.
And here's the problem. I firmly believe, and there's a lot of people that believe with me, that had we have waited another 30 days before promising any money, that the large banks and the brokerage houses would have divided up amongst themselves. They would have swallowed each other up, and they would have carried on. And I will tell you, if you will quit the bailout scenario.
But we can quit now because the country's pretty much broke. There's nothing left to
absolutely.
bail
I mean,
with.
well, your Lord and Savior Barack Obama is out there touting a 3 points.
You can't blame him.
I can blame him. I can blame him for putting a $3.6 trillion budget out front, which gives him another $1 trillion of free money to spend on whatever he decides to do with it.
Well, I agree with that. Part of the reason for that budget, though, is because things were neglected for the last 7 or 8 years.
Right off the bat.
And the money went to people like Halliburton and Blackwater and people like that.
That's fine. Right off the bat, we need to cut. All right? Still got House members. And Jeff Miller, this one's for you, pal. And Nancy Pelosi, your boss up there. They're still going to allow automatic raises. Although they did grow enough of a backbone, they thought it would be important. If you're not noticing the sarcasm, it's thick. They did say, well, we won't take the raise this year.
You're talking about the House of Representatives.
Right, but we're not going to change the law. Our raise will still, in 2010, our raise will still be automatic, and you little idiots at home can't stop that from happening.
Well, I would just point this out, that one of the basic tenets of the recent conservative movement in the U.S. is that we need to get rid of Social Security, and we need to turn it over to the stock market. And if that had happened the way that second President Bush had wanted it to, there'd be a lot of people today on Social Security who would be living in the street.
Well,
they'd be flat busted.
I am when you take a very short view. Okay, look, the young people that are out there right now, I'm talking about,
You starved to death in about 4 days. That's my short view.
Well, you have, since the inception of the stock market in 1921 or 1919, the stock market has returned an average of 11.5%. And if you start looking at market turns on a weekly basis, I'm sorry.
You can still starve to death in those downturn periods, though.
You can.
Which now would be one of them.
But